to have 200 people show up is unbelievable and amazing, and why I love this community so much. And I think just where I leave it is, if it's a 4-3 switch eventually, I still have faith. I've seen people, individuals change. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't hold their feet to the fire. But for me, I want to try and at least in Better Together's belief of like trying to at least maintain some of those bridges going into this because we've been surprised before. Hey everyone, this is Nick Allen with Better Together. Thank you all for joining us. And today we're welcoming back Jacob Richards, the writer and publisher of local paper, monthly paper here, The Revolutionist. Jacob, welcome back to Better Together.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Nick. It's
Of
always a good
course.
time.
Yes, always. So we want to dive in here. There's been some big news, especially here locally. Something we've been following. I hear there's been a little bit of a disruption or some new board members for our local library board. Can you tell us like what's going on there and what's been some of the community reaction?
Well, really, Nick, this has been something the Revolutionist has been following kind of the right-wing backlash after an art piece was displayed by the library this spring. The art piece in question it had Donald Trump, but with a Hitler mustache on it. The library, being a library, doesn't really have any policies or procedures in place to censor stuff.
Hmm.
And so they didn't censor this piece of artwork, and that really kind of put the library on the radar of the Stand for the Constitution, the Moms for Liberty kind of milieu here in this town. The ones that also just lost a school board, controlled a school board. These kind of people are the ones kind of leading started this. They started pushing on the library because of the art. And so we're kind of watching the library starting then. And about 3 months ago, in late September, we started getting emails from librarians from anonymous, obvious burner email accounts, kind of raising their concerns with the appointment of a new library board member in Ketty Velder. Uh, I don't have it right in front of me.
Sure. All good.
Um, Ketty Vandervelt,
Hmm.
Veld, and she was appointed this summer by the Board of County Commissioners. And then, according to our sources that were reaching out to us anonymously, and then we also, have people we know there that we were able to confirm these leaks with. According to them, she kind of was a leading force in getting this Constitution Day event, which kind of raised eyebrows because it took place inside the children's area of the library.
Hmm.
And generally, outside groups don't aren't able to hold events in the children's part of the library. You can they're it's limited to library sponsored events and library co-sponsored events.
Right. That makes
But this
sense. And
event wasn't either of those. It was put together by a group of, a non-group of homeschool moms. Like they don't have
mhm.
an organization. And Ketty was a big part of that, as was Lisa Fry, the one of the ladies that was just appointed on Tuesday. Her Mesa County Compass
Mhm.
podcast was a sponsor of it and a promoter of it, and they helped organize the event. So we had been kind of watching it since then, and Friday of last week is when they dropped the agenda for the next Tuesday's county commissioner meeting, and on the consent agenda was appointing these two new board members. So we quickly put out a story by Saturday, and it went viral. We called. Um, well, the title of it was MAGA book burners coming after Mesa County Public Library, and it
Mhm.
went viral. And I didn't even realize it necessarily. I kind of published it, and I went up to my dad's house in Paonia, and I was riding horses and doing family stuff, and not really looking at my phone. And driving back to town Monday morning, I was like, "Oh boy, the community's organizing," and
Sure.
it was very heartening, at least for me, to go down there. I had to leave kind of early at the meeting, but to see literally hundreds of people packing the county commissioner meeting. I have never in 20 years of being involved in local politics here in Mesa County have never seen the county have to open two overflow rooms. There still be, a couple dozen people in the hallway looking in the main chamber, and still have people outside the building holding signs
Right.
during the hearing. So the community really mobilized, and ultimately we didn't win the day. They appointed the two board appointees that to many seem underqualified and seem part of a trend to pack the board with right-wing ideologues instead
Mm,
of kind of professional, non-partisan professionals.
sure.
And the people being replaced are really fall into that second category as very nonpartisan, very professional. And they both had sought a second term. And during the course of the hearings, an issue that was kind of a smaller issue turned out to be a really big one because a lot of people that spoke out had applied for these library board positions and had never been interviewed. And really, we haven't been able to find anybody except for the two people appointed that actually got an interview.
Mm,
So it doesn't seem like much of a truly like, oh, transparent, we're going to pick the best candidate kind of process when they only interview their candidates and people
as far
with
as we know right now, yeah.
yeah
Yeah.
and so I mean people that they didn't interview include like PhDs in library science. um they made a point at the end of the meeting of saying that like, well, the executive director has asked for more board members with more financial
Hmm.
acumen. Well, one of the people that applied for the board position and didn't get interviewed was the financial director of the library for 23 years and recently retired. So,
Sure.
is that, are we really just kind of making excuses and just trying to butter the biscuit as it goes down? So the other big takeaway I took away from it was I was really surprised at how empowered people in our community were, and a wide range of people in our community that mobilized and went to the county commissioner meeting, how empowered people still felt, even though we ultimately lost. And I
Hmm.
think that's for a number of reasons. I think for sure we're going to have more people watching the library board now. And I was in a meeting the other day with a library board of trustee member who said that they are absolutely planning on and accommodating more people coming to those meetings, even so much as switching the room that they're usually held in. So now it's going to be in a bigger room, kind of preemptively expecting more interest in what's going on with the library board after Tuesday's mobilization. So I think that's a big win. The other big thing we can look at is the next two library board positions are going to becoming open at the end of 2026, and that'll be Mary Watson and Randy Spidell, and they will be up for either reappointment or potentially the county commissioners putting in new people into their seats at the end of 2026. So as of right now, the library board is a seven-person board. Right now, they've appointed three people in this new push to take over the library board out of seven. So right now, it's a 3-4 common sense majority still.
Mm.
But we need to stay on it. We need to be watching that ahead of time and trying to figure out how to make it a nonpartisan choice. Because right now you can go to the library and find an Ann Coulter book and a kid's book, that some of the reactionaries would find objectionable for
Sure.
some sort of race, class, or gender reasons.
Hmm.
Um, so they're doing their job now. But that's ultimately what the right doesn't want them to do. They want them to just be a place of power and control. And we're seeing that play out not just here in Grand Junction, but all over the state. Garfield County is in a position where they're now having to push back after their board being totally repacked with right-wing ideologues and their library system. Um, really taking a hit in terms of transparency and its openness and people's access to information. So
Well,
I feel like it's
yeah,
really good that we're ahead of it
sure.
and
No, I mean,
we have
it's,
eyeballs on it now.
yeah, and that was kind of the surprise to me too, was just the recognition, the early action. A lot of this stuff can be reaction to steps taken. I think a few points. One I think is important just because you and I go way back, and one thing that I always tell our listeners is if you agree with somebody 100%, one of you's lying. So just to like dive in a little bit, just step by step here because you mentioned that art piece, and I remember seeing that art piece with the Trump Hitler combo. Very provocative, no doubt. And I mean, what do you think? It's kind of that's always a discussion, right? Of like, how do you think the liberal community would have reacted if, they had done that with Obama? With like, how do we where does that fall? I mean, is it who can judge art? We saw it happening in Fruta. Why is it such a like sticking point with so many people?
Well, I mean, so I forget the guy's full name, but the guy who's founded Breitbart has a quote that says, "Culture first, politics, and then the politics will follow." And I'm
Right.
paraphrasing it. And I think that's ultimately kind of what these culture wars are about. And honestly, I almost guarantee you people would have not liked a piece about Obama, but I would guarantee you would be nobody like calling to censor the piece.
Mm,
And having lived through the Obama and been like a pretty vocal critic of his policies both then and now, um, I feel like there's a lot more room for criticizing our leaders on the liberal, progressive, and even radical side than there is
sure.
on the right. And so I think art that criticizes our leaders, I didn't see anybody freaking out about the obey stickers when they put Obama on them. You know what I mean?
Oh
Like,
yeah, I hear
or
you.
anything like that. It was like, okay, you have that belief, we have this belief. I mean, I think it'd have been great if they had a submission that was equally political the opposite way, and it could have been
Hmm.
balanced. But that probably isn't the way the submission process worked out. You
That's a
know?
good point. Yeah, I guess that's why I wish I could see some of that because I think you hit it right. I mean, it's good to criticize our leaders. It's good to be provocative and like force these conversations, but it gives an opening too to one side if they're like we're under attack because we don't see the other side, like again, the binary, right? But it's I wonder how to get, I don't know, more of that out there.
I I think it's in some way it's almost like it's a we can do it, but you can't do it
Hmm.
pattern that comes out of the right where, you know, they claim that like woke cancel culture is censoring them
Mm,
and that they throw around memes all the time, the right wing of things like, you know, s- free speech is like speech that is upsetting, or like if it's not upsetting somebody, it's not really free speech.
right,
And
right.
you know what I mean? That is what people mean by free speech. It's not um, speech I necessarily have to agree with. Like I don't go and check out the Ann Coulter book, but
Sure.
I don't want the Ann Coulter book to be in the trash can.
Hmm.
And that is, I know, and maybe you can ask the question a little more like a question, but like I know we differed on kind of the tone and
Right.
the rhetoric of both the headline and the image that we had created
Hmm.
associated with it. Um, and it's, and Greg Hates spoke to that in his public comment,
Okay.
immediately, but it's like, he was like, my brother, my dude, like who has been amping up this rhetoric for decades and decades and decades and decades of, you know, making a group of names. And I know you objected to the book burners thing. Um,
Yeah, I think, it's in the sense of like you're right. It's happening nationwide. Our country has a literal history of book burning, no doubt. And when I see something like that, my first thought was a little bit, especially the picture, because it's in the background. It looks like I think it was like probably a German Nazi book burning session. I wasn't sure. I was like, is this American? Or I thought that was kind of funny because it could have been. But and then it had the three county commissioners in green, and it took me a second. I thought they were Groypers, but I guess they're Grinches in that because you got, yeah,
yeah,
Lindy Lou
because
there.
it's
But
Christmas.
it's Christmas. Yeah, no, I was like, oh, okay, it's silly on me. But I know Lisa. I've been on, and she's one of the newest board member appointees. I've been on Compass. Um, and maybe I'm silly, but just when, I know her and I trust her in the sense. I do think that, she's obviously has her beliefs, no doubt. No doubt. And do I think that those beliefs should interfere in her decision making? No. And I hope that they won't. And I've seen people in positions of power that when they get there, they change and they take it more serious. They realize that now Lisa also represents you and I. And she has to do that. And I think if she believes in the republic, our republic that requires representative democracy, it's my hope that that happens. I don't know about the other person, to be honest. I watched like the Constitution Day video, which I got a lot of thoughts on that too. Um, it wasn't a library event. It was a weird place to host it. There's plenty of open spaces in the library where to do that. I think it's great to celebrate the Constitution. That's all fine and dandy, but it got muddled 100%, and I think a little bit nefariously too. So that was the point where I was like, okay, I get the piece, I understand why it's going out. I wanted to just add some context and just like a reminder that these are our neighbors and a little bit of a benefit of the doubt. Do you think the thing that happens to me is like, would you have gotten the same reaction? Because it does, that power of 200 plus people is really important. Did it require, a little bit of salt on top there to get it, or is it what made you decide to go that direction?
Honestly, I mean, the term book burner I borrowed from a number of people we talked to on background, where I'm not really at a liberty to name them.
Sure.
They either work at the library or close to the library boards. There's two different boards actually related to the library, and they referred to them as book burners while we were talking in our conversation. And I think, nobody's going to run on that platform, even though that's, their intent. They're not going to
Hmm.
say that, but like we can look as Greg Hates gets up there and says, we're not book burners, da 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 da. You look at the power map of like who these people hang out with, what meetings do they go to, what groups are they associated with, and these kind of stand for the Constitution, Moms for Liberty kind of book groups are actively trying to ban books. Moms for Liberty has a list of a couple hundred books we linked to in our article that they are encouraging people all over the country to call up their schools and call up their libraries and get these books taken off the shelf. So
Hmm.
these are groups that are actively book burning. Greg Hates' wife, Andrea, led the charge to ban the fourth grade history book that the curriculum committee appointed 6 months ago and replace it with a much lower scored and lower quality textbook for our fourth graders because they didn't like the fact that it taught, facts about racism in Colorado as
Sure.
part of the history curriculum. So, I mean, when they're like, we're not book burners, I have to read what people have done in the past and who they hang out with and what they've said. Like, in terms of Lisa Fry and that video about their Constitution Day, they interviewed three participants, and the conversations in all three interviews kind of drifted very quickly from the Constitution to gripes and complaints all three of them have with the library.
True, true, true. And they
So
have
so
editorial
we so
control.
the
Yeah.
video didn't edit itself. Lisa chose when covering her Constitution Day event to pick three clips where people criticize woke books that the library has. You know what I mean? That was a choice. That was an editing choice she made. So I have to think that wasn't accidental.
Hmm.
And then Alice, the other lady that was appointed, do I have that right? Actually, I'm unsure now. Give me a second.
Sure. No, as you take that, I mean, I hear
You
you. I think, and it's like the the fourth grade, social studies book is noted, history book is noted for sure that yeah, it was a split decision from the board, and it was, a push from the former conservative majority against, the teacher recommended one. I don't know. It's like because if we're getting into semantics, we can move on, but it's like that's such a freaking powerful word of book burner. And like if I'm being silly, then it's okay. We
No,
can go
no,
past
you're
it. It's
fine.
just it's just like when we start to see more of that evidence 100%, and that example you gave with the curriculum, it's a close example. It's concerning when they're saying, well, Christopher Columbus was a great guy and we need to like, we have board members that are, have indigenous history that are, here saying no, that he was a colonizer and a killer of our people, and it's like, where do we where do we really like sound the alarm, or where is it just like Chicken Little? Is the sky falling with these two? Is it too soon to like really push, or is it if we wait any longer, if we don't, if we
What
wait for
would
their first vote, it's too late.
I think both those things are true, and I think that it gets back to the like it's okay for us and not okay for you thing. Like what what would be the stand for the Constitution response if I was being appointed to the library board?
Sure, that's true. True.
What
Yes.
would be their response? And this is why we need nonpartisan professionals, people who have the skill set needed for running a $10 billion branch of our local government that
Yeah.
employs over 100 people, and who has to make and be in the middle of these community decisions. The way the library handles it is you have both books. You can have your patriotic, almost AI generated slop, and it's just this happy kind of fairy tale history of America. And you can have real books for real academics. There's always been, cheap books that don't have much value and other books with more value. And both of them should be on the shelf for people to read.
Yeah. No, you and I agree
Um,
for sure. I think that's a great
so
point
I
too.
think
Yeah.
that, and I think, yeah, once they have control of the board, it's far too late to wrestle it back. And we can look at kind of the struggles of um, the activist group that is formed in Garfield County, trying to slow down and reverse a number of policies that are limiting people's access to information in that
Mm.
county. And again, look at that power mapping. Like Garfield County and Mesa County often follow each other legislatively. Like one
Yeah.
tries something, the other one tries something, this one tries something, the other one tries something. Sometimes Garfield County's first and Mesa County follows, and sometimes it's the other way around. So I think, decades of political watching in this town and in this part of the state, and watching and knowing who these people are regularly associate with, like once they have a four-person majority on the board, it's over.
Mm.
They're
Yeah.
gonna And I think it's really important to say that Michelle is very well beloved. It was really encouraging to hear the county commissioners say that they supported Michelle.
That's
It
a
was
library
really good.
director.
It was really, yeah, sorry, the library director. It was really good to hear the county commissioners reaffirm on the public record, on video, that they don't support banning any books and this kind of stuff. So
Sure.
could it be hollow words? Possibly, but it's still good that they were on record saying that stuff. So it was
And
an
that's because of the
impressive
organizing.
mobilization.
And that's because of the organizing that went into it. And I will give 100% like credit to, the work that went into just getting the mass amount of people. You're right. The county commissioner meetings are 9 a.m. on Tuesdays. Like to have 200 people show up is unbelievable and amazing, and why I love this community so much. And I think just where I leave it is, if it's a 4-3 switch eventually, I still have faith. I've seen people, individuals change. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't hold their feet to the fire. But for me, I want to try and at least in Better Together's belief of like trying to at least maintain some of those bridges going into this, because we've been surprised before. We've been surprised before.
Mhm.
But I think that's just kind of where we differ some, but I think overall we care deeply about libraries and public institutions. So my question to you, and this is kind of broad strokes, I mean, do we just need to revamp how library board is done? Because it's a $10 million budget, like taxpayer budget, like,
I mean, I think really what we need to do is revamp our county commissioners and how that's done, and move to
mm,
a five commissioner board, have districts, not countywide vote.
yeah,
That way, different parts of the county that are starting to develop, a gulf between them in political leanings, that everybody has some representation on the commission. And I think that's one thing I heard a lot about was like people were like, who are we running against these people? We need to get at least one good person on there
Mm,
and flip it like we flipped the school board, you know? And that was one comment I was expecting somebody to make, but they didn't, was um, the community just voted and they voted out this line of thinking
mm,
at the school board level.
mm,
Why are we now re-injecting that strain of thought into our library board immediately
mm.
after the community voted to flip the school board?
That's really interesting because that was one of my other questions is like, this is the same county commissioners that appointed, Randy Spidell.
Mhm.
And Randy
No,
was that under
Justin was still on. It was when Randy was appointed.
oh,
So
okay.
it's
Justman and okay.
these are the first three they've appointed. I'm pretty sure. I'm not, don't quote me 100% on
Okay, you got it. You got it.
that.
Okay, because I thought, maybe, yeah, just maybe this is a bit of the reaction coming out of the school board election. I don't know, of just like a flex of power or a little bit backlash, maybe.
Well, and I think the Sentinel, their op-ed was really good. It kind of was like a warning to the county commissioners that they need to like take this seriously, that the library board's not a plaything for partisanship. Um, and we had good leaders already on the board, people with that experience, and a deep understanding of how the library works after 5 years on the board.
Sure.
So giving them that second term would have been really good. And there really wasn't any complaints against them. It's not like they made some crazy lefty stand or something. Artwork got displayed that people didn't like, and
And
that
that's
really
good. That should
that
do,
really is,
it makes you
yeah.
think.
Art's supposed to elicit emotional reactions from people.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
that's
I'd love
art.
to see a
That's
little
art
bit of
doing its
honesty.
job, and I think that's what local media and independent grassroots media can do a little more. And yeah, I don't know. I have some qualms about the language we use too, and thought about it a bit. But I was like, we need to ring the bell. If it brings everybody to the meeting, let's do it. You know,
Right.
and I don't think it's really that much hyperbole more than a lot of political hyperbole we have. Like, come on, these people think Nancy Pelosi, they call Nancy Pelosi a communist. We're
Totally.
using lots of hyperbole all over the place. And then as soon as you're the victim of some hyperbole, it was a lot of woe is me. This
Sure.
this rhetoric is getting a little much, guys.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that. I went to a school board meeting, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, where I was like, look, Diana Circo is not a communist. That was the former school board super or school superintendent. And like, Heights and Lima and Jones are not book burners. Now, is there concern? Is there some smoke? We're staying with the analogy. Yeah, like I think that's fair, and especially just like when you're turning against those that are nonpartisan, that present, that want to just give the information and make it as accurate as possible to the people versus just shutting it down. And when you have someone just shutting it down or canceling it, like to use the word, it's canceling just ability for people to see things and learn things and oh, look, two moms working together to build a tree house for their kid. Amazing. Like I just got a book for my daughter that's a race car driver that's a girl. Like that's
Good. Yeah.
that's woke, right? Like that's too much. You can't, women used to not be able to get driver's license. Like,
Well,
where are we at with this is just kind
well,
of
it's never going to be
bonkers.
like book burning. It's not going to times have moved on. It's not going to be like, a bonfire book burning. It's going to be
Sure.
things like canceling the library contract with Canopy, which I don't know if you've taken advantage of it or if any of your listeners have taken advantage of it. You can use your library card to get on Canopy, a streaming service, and watch all kinds of incredible international small art house films and really powerful documentaries on a lot of topics ranging from ancient aliens to liberal shit too, or liberal stuff too, like both of those things. But what book burning will look like in our modern era is those kind of services being
Mm,
downsized and canceled. One of the things they've done in Garfield County, and they're still working out the details of it, is a proposed like having to get parental permission for certain kid books. So they would be
mm,
set up in a reserve and away from the rest of the kid books, which means nobody's going to find them just browsing around the library. You know,
harder
you'd have to like
access.
search
Yeah.
for them. And there was no lefty censorship of right-wing thinking and materials at the library 2 weeks ago. So there's no real reason to like pack the board with
Hmm.
people except for to, potentially do things that would limit our access to free information.
Right. Right. No, I think the concern is very legitimate.
And I
And
have concerns, I have concerns about a Republican-packed library board in terms of how they treat the homeless too.
mm,
Um, and Michelle has done a really great job. If we really think about it, the library system is one of the largest homeless service providers in the valley. And they
yeah,
do it in a way where these people feel welcome, can access services, and still maintain an environment that we all walk into and feel comforted and
it's
welcomed
safe.
into as well. Um, and it's probably the only place in town where really the homeless population and the general public actively use the same space for long periods of the day with very little conflict. And I think Michelle has done an amazing job on that. And I think that was another issue that I have concerns about moving forward as this board changes.
Hmm.
Hopefully, it won't change anymore. But I think it is motivating people to really look at the upcoming county commissioner election. Bobby Daniels is up for election. And I did want to throw out there for people to the library board of trustees meeting is the last Thursday of every month at 5:30 p.m. They're not going to have one this December because it's Christmas or the day after Christmas. No, it'd be Christmas.
Christmas Day, yeah.
So the next one is the last Thursday in January at 5:30 p.m. at the central branch of the library at the Monument Room. And
Awesome.
I think we've mentioned it before on a previous one. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. So getting people there, keeping an eye on all the little things that are being talked about at that level will give us a better idea of where things might be going, as well as give us, a chance to engage with people like Lisa and bend their ear a little bit and try to get them to hear our concerns as well.
Hmm.
So, you
I think
know,
that's a great call to action, Jacob. Yeah.
I think maybe I beat the drum on this one, and you you play the good cop, and I'll play the bad cop on this one, and we'll
Hey,
keep an eye on our library board.
I'm always happy to talk to anyone about anything. It'll be an interesting conversation if I ever get Jason Bias on. I've not seen the demonic nature of our library yet. Again, I was there today. No demons were running around.
No demons.
Not a single one, but I'll keep an eye on. Jacob, thanks for joining us as always. And I think no matter what, you got a compass, point. Oh, it's not ironic, but you have a direction, and how we get there. We'll have our different strategies and how we do it, but we always appreciate you coming on and the work you're putting towards the community.
Can I plug the Revolutionist website real quick?
Always,
Hey,
always.
we're the Revolutionist is 100% subscriber funded. It's all volunteered community media. We're kind of wrapping up 2025 with something like 31 different writers having been published on our pages, 6 different local artists, 14 different photographers, and 11 different poets. So we're open to points of view that are not represented in the mainstream media, and we always welcome submissions and always welcome subscribers. They kind of keep the lights on and the website up, and you can find us at therevolutionistgj.org.
Perfect. Check that out, folks. Thank you again, Jacob.
Thank you, Nick. Have a good evening.
You too.